Hello, I'm Greg Mehlin, and welcome to Sit Down Cinema, a new show where myself and other film buffs come together to talk movies. For our first episode, we'll be discussing the DCEU's newest release, The Suicide Squad. Written and directed by James Gunn and starring the likes of Idris Elba and Margot Robbie, the film is a sequel/soft reboot to 2016's Suicide Squad. It centers around a group of supervillain prisoners who are enlisted by the US government to go on a secret mission. Though it shares the same concept and a few characters as its predecessor, it is otherwise unconnected and an entirely different film, thank God. I'm joined today by Cooper Tennant and Jorie Mickens. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing good. I'm very excited to talk about The Suicide Squad, a movie that I think is leaps and bounds better than the first one that came out, at least.
I'm also just happy to be here, excited to talk some film, and I agree with Cooper. I think this was certainly better than the original, and I can't wait to get into it.
Same here. And so we've all said, we think it's better than the original. That's not the highest praise in the world, but just give me your first thoughts. What do you guys think of The Suicide Squad?
I thought it was really fun. I think that is the word I would use to describe more than anything else. For an R-rated movie that is like, it earns its R rating. I mean, people are getting ripped in half, like people are exploding. It's surprisingly heartfelt. I don't normally recommend like hard R-rated movies to my mom or my parents, but I think my mom could watch this and really get some enjoyment out of it. But I mean, I think it's fun. I had such a blast in the theater watching this.
Yeah, I mean, you basically stole the words right out of my mouth. It's a fun time. It's action packed. Like you said, it's kind of emotional. It's not something you really expected from director James Gunn, but I thought he understood the assignment and basically hit the nail right on the head. So it was a great film, I think. And I mean, yeah, that's basically all I'll say right now.
I agree with both of you. I love this movie. I thought that it was the best superhero film I've seen in the last few years. Like you said, it's no word better describes it than just fun. It's just wonderfully done, so unique, and on the topic of being unique, I think a lot of that comes from writer and director James Gunn, and so I wanted to talk a bit about him. What do you guys think of I think that he's very stylized and sets himself apart from others, and what do you have to say on him at all?
Oh, well, I guess I'll go and take this first then. So James Gunn, I mean, like you said, style is the thing that stands out. I mean, I feel like the Guardians of the Galaxy movies that he's so known for, at least at this point, they definitely have their own, style. And this movie again, you could definitely tell in that sense. Again, I feel like he understood what he wanted to do with this movie. The original Suicide Squad, I feel like it was just very bleak, not very vibrant. Whereas this one, I feel like they played more into the characters a little bit more and their personalities and things like that. So, I mean, I thought it was great overall. The writing was very funny at times. Again, it was also very emotional and heartfelt. So, for the most part, I thought he was the perfect person for this job.
I agree. I will say I think that that he's the perfect person for the job. I did think as soon as I walked out of the theater, I kind of thought like I think I enjoy the Guardians movies more because it kind of pulls him back a little bit, Like I think it's great that Warner Brothers is kind of letting these creators take their like superheroes or whatever and do literally anything they want with them because I think that's the kind of creative freedom that a lot of directors should have. But I do think that the Guardians movies I might enjoy more just because it felt like it was filtered James Gunn instead of pure James Gunn. I think both kind of things have a place, but I don't know. I still love the movie. That sounds like I'm kind of nitpicking at this point because I can't really find too many things that I didn't like. But I agree with Jorie. I think the writing's fantastic. It's hard to balance like genuinely fantastic comedy with like some good heartfelt moments. So I was a fan.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you guys. I think that some that he does really well, and it's because I think that this is on a similar level as the Guardians movies, and I think that he does an excellent job taking sort of like the runts, like the characters that are so like out there, and you would think like, what, you're doing a movie on them, but he really just brings them alive and makes them incredibly endearing. And he does, I think, an excellent job of mixing humor and drama. Like this film is primarily comedy, but it still has a lot of moments that are rather heartfelt and just excellently acted, and like there's like genuine pathos there. Like I think that he's one of the more unique voices in the superhero movie genre at this time, genre where a lot of the time these films sort of blend together and are very similar. But so moving on from that, I want to know, what do you guys think of this film's cast then, both in terms of the characters themselves and the actors? Who do you think were highlights? Who do you think was like improved on, or or was there anyone that you wanted more from?
Well, I went into the movie expecting to love. I had to look up how to pronounce his last name. David Dasmalchian, the guy who plays Polka Dot Man, because he's never played like a leading character, really. He's never played like a big character. But he's got a very distinctive face, and I like the way that he does kind of awkward performances. So I was really looking forward to seeing him as Polka Dot Man, because Polka Dot Man is also a character that I think is just really stupid in the comics. I think that he impressed me with the way that they took that character, where you actually sympathize with Polka Dot Man of all people. I think I was most surprised by the actress who played Ratcatcher 2, which I don't actually remember the name of, but her performance, this was, I think, one of her first film roles or something like that. Like, it's her first big film. And I was like amazed at how well she was acting with, superstars like Idris Elba and Margot Robbie. And, like, it's insane, like a star-studded cast like that. And one of my favorite actresses was someone who had hardly ever been in anything before. I was really blown away by her performance.
Yeah, I thought the entire like cast, the entire ensemble was much better than the original. Obviously that one featured big names like Will Smith and Jared Leto, but I felt like for the most part they all failed to kind of leave a lasting impression outside of course Margot Robbie, who plays Harley Quinn, one of the key returners in that one. But I thought for the most part it wasn't like her doing a lot of the heavy lifting, a lot of the carrying. Whereas, you saw Idris Elba gave a very passionate performance. John Cena, it wasn't very over the top like a WWE SmackDown or anything like that. It was, he played well into his role. And then even, Sylvester Stallone as King Shark delivered nice, voice acting at times. So I thought all the characters kind of allowed Margot Robbie to kind of play a backseat in this film, and it kind of paid off. And like you said, Cooper, I thought David Dasmalchian, who was great as Polka Dot Man. Normally he's casted as like a conniving character in his films. Like if you remember back to The Dark Knight or Prisoners. No, I thought other than that though, I thought he did a really good job kind of portraying like an emotionally scarred supervillain. And then the whole thing with his mom in this movie was really funny as well. So I really liked the entire cast in this one. I thought James Gunn did a great job kind of directing everyone in the right direction, for lack of a better term. But yeah, I didn't think anyone was really wasted in this film. Thought everyone was used well. Even, the opening scene with some of the less notable characters, I guess, in this movie.
Yeah, I'll agree. I think that it's a wonderful overall ensemble. Like you guys said, David Dasmalchian as Polka Dot Man. He's usually in smaller roles, so it was great to see him get more to do than he usually does. Daniella Melchior, I believe that's how it's pronounced, as Ratcatch 2. I think I've heard several people call her like the heart of this movie, and I agree with that. I thought that she was wonderful. And Margot Robbie is, of course, still doing great work in this role. Idris Elba as the film's leading man was, I thought, miles better than Will Smith in the first movie. And just everyone. John Cena was a lot of fun, and like surprisingly, like in the climax, I thought that he did great dramatic work. Like I've seen him be funny before. Words can't express how much I love King Shark, and just the fact that Sylvester Stallone plays him. James Gunn has something for taking huge action stars like him and Vin Diesel and just giving them these giant dumb CGI characters, but it just works. Then it was I remember there was only one person in this cast that was like him. Like, why is he in this? And after that, I don't necessarily like, but he very early on got his face blown off. I won't say who, and I was just so happy to see that because it was beautiful. It was a work of art. But moving on from the excellent ensemble, I wanted to talk about just all of the sort of like little things, like the things that people don't maybe pick up on, but are just as important, such as like, production elements and all that. What do you guys think of things like whether it be the visual effects or cinematography or so on?
Yeah, I thought there's a lot of really good production elements in this film. The cinematography, I guess I'll start there. I mean, there's a few scenes I thought that were very exceptionally done. A few that comes to mind. I thought one scene with Idris Elba and John Cena kind of taking over, I guess, that camp near the beginning of the film where they're kind of showing off to one another their skills. I thought that was really well done. The Harley Quinn scene, she's kind of, I guess, marching her way down the hallway, if you guys understand what I'm referring to. I thought that was, beautiful to watch. And then, of course, the one scene of King Shark with him and the soldier. Again, I don't want to say too much, but I thought that was a crazy well done scene. So again, and then I guess some of the costumes. I thought again, Peacemaker, who of course was John Cena in Bloodsport, played by Idris Elba. They looked really well done. Bloodsport was more of like a modern, very tactical look, whereas like Peacemaker was definitely more comical, and it was funny to see John Cena, who's such a massive like behemoth of a man, kind of in that kind of get up outfit. So that was great as well. And then, of course, the visual effects. I thought there was a lot of like practical effects for this movie, some or for the most part, but some of the visual effects were incredible. Of course, the main villain in this movie, I mean, that looked great. But for the most part, a lot of the production elements in this film were outstanding.
I agree. I'm not huge on like costumes in movies or anything like that, but I found it really interesting looking to see what David Ayer's production team did with the characters from Suicide Squad in 2016 compared to James Gunn in 2021, especially the characters that are in both. Like the colors used in the Suicide Squad from this year, they're really bright and they pop, which is kind of something I feel is needed in a movie as stupid as Goofy and as a Suicide Squad. Like I feel like if you look at the characters of like Rick Flag, played by Joel Kinnaman, Harley Quinn with Margot Robbie, and even Jai Courtney as Captain Boomerang, like the colors spread across all the characters in Suicide Squad from 2016. It's really drab and boring and gray, which isn't something you'd want in any movie, especially like a comic book movie. And seeing like, I don't know, like seeing Captain Boomerang and like actually wearing like blue and looking as stupid as he does in the comics, like I don't know, I'm a big fan of that kind of stuff. And I think it's fun when comic book movies kind of lean into how goofy they are without them becoming a joke in of themselves. And I think using production design and the costuming and stuff in this movie, I think they kind of knocked it out of the park in that regard.
Yes, I'll agree with all that. I think that the costumes sort of symbolize some that's a huge plus for the film is that it really feels like a comic book to me, and it's not ashamed of that. It's like it's fun to look at something that's sort of silly like that, but it's done in a way where you can take it seriously enough that it just really blends well together. The visual look, like some of these shots are really beautiful. The fight scenes, all the choreography is excellently executed, and like some of these visual effects, like I mean, for most of the movie, there's this giant, chubby shark man amongst our heroes, our heroes, but and he looks incredibly realistic, like you said, like our main villain who is I don't even know how to go down that rabbit hole right now, but it's like such an incredibly done effect. I think that the whole thing is just you know a good written script is one thing, but when all the production elements come together so well here and so like focused together, it just makes it so much better. And now we've already made a few comparisons, but I want to know what do you guys think of this film when you put it next to the previous film directed by David Ayer?
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess I kind of mentioned this before, but I just thought the original cast was very top heavy. It was kind of carried by a few actors, and whereas this one I thought was very well rounded. I think the newer one, the Suicide Squad, was definitely more action packed, more vibrant, and definitely like more comical in just every sense. I thought the original was very bleak, whereas James Gunn kind of comedic relief wasn't necessarily like shoehorned in at the last second. It felt like natural, rather than the original movie. Um, yeah, and I just thought it was well written throughout, directed well. It's honestly, it's basically like night and day. This movie is just worlds better than the original.
I think Jorie kind of hit the nail on the head there. Like it is literally night and day. Like the Suicide Squad from 2016 is just like, I mean, I've seen it once since I saw it in theaters, and it is just like a slog to get through, in my opinion. Like there's some enjoyable moments, but most of the movie's enjoyment comes from being able to laugh at it. Like I think the scene where Slipknot, like, the first thing he does when he's like, "Hey, don't try to run away, else your head will explode," and then he just runs away and his head, like, I think that's funny, but not intentionally funny. Whereas this movie has intentionally funny moments that are actually like really funny. Um, but yeah, I mean, literally like night and day. Like and don't be worried about having to watch that movie before seeing this movie. I mean, it might add to the some specific moments a little bit more, make you feel a little bit more, but you really don't need to know anything about uh the former to watch the new one.
Yes, I agree with all of that. The original is not without a few things that worked, but it is for the most part it's a mess. It's really like, it was some story is that it was already a bad movie. Like recently some of the original pages of it leaked in an attempt to get the original cut out there. It's not pretty. But so then like the studio like went in and they tried to greatly like change it with the reshoots, and it created like this jumbled mess of like a movie where it was two things that were completely different but were pushed into one product. And compare that to this, which knows exactly what it wants to be. It's a focused movie that did not suffer from any studio interference. It just let the director do whatever he wanted, and it was so refreshing to see that. And also, possibly the biggest improvement over the first movie is that this film has absolutely zero Jared Leto, and that's something that I think all movies should subscribe to do. Like the less Jared Leto appears in movies, the better, especially when it's his Joker, and a Joker who has damaged written on his forehead. I don't want that. Nobody wants that. I mean, some people want it for some reason, but I don't get that. And just leave it out of my cinema. So then we compared this to the previous film. It's no contest that this one is better. How do you guys think that this stacks up in the overall DCEU? And also, just in recent comic book movies in general, what do you think of this? How does it compare?
I mean, I've always kind of enjoyed the DCU movies. I mean, and the MCU has hit its stride, obviously, like with having every single movie connect. And DC obviously tried to do that. It didn't work, obviously. But I think they're kind of entering a new prime, I hope, at least for DC, because I really love a lot of the characters and the movies have kind of been poopy so far. But I really think that Warner Brothers and DC are going to be able to do a lot of good now that they're just starting to give characters to directors. Like, I think I really like Shazam. I think Shazam's really fun. It's more of like a family movie than anything else, but it's a good time. I mean, I like Aquaman. I think James Wan visually brings a lot to that movie. I'm excited for Matt Reeves' The Batman whenever that comes out with Robert Pattinson. But I think this might be my favorite DCU movie so far. I mean, I liked the Snyder Cut, but that's a 4-hour long movie, so I can't recommend that to anybody. But I think as of right now, it's probably my favorite. And it will also outrank a couple of the Marvel movies as well, because like Thor 2 is also kind of sucks.
Yeah, I think I would have to agree with Cooper. It's definitely up there among the DC movies that I've seen. You mentioned Shazam. That seems to be like a fan favorite with a lot of people, so I would definitely have that up there. But I mean, the Suicide Squad, it was just so well rounded. And if you're looking for a laugh, there's plenty of those. If you want action and like a huge body count, you can certainly expect that. And then, of course, if you want characters that you'll actually care about in the end, you'll get that as well. So maybe it's just recency bias, because I just watched it last week or so, but I feel like it was really one of the best, I guess, comic book movies, superhero movies that I've seen in quite some time.
Yes, I agree with that. I would also put this at the top of the DCEU, which I think does have a few films that are actually very strong. Like you said, I think Shazam was a wonderful movie, but this, like I said at the beginning, I think that this is my favorite comic book movie of the last few years, and it's definitely up there for me. I don't know what my top 10 or anything like that would be, but I definitely think that this is an exciting new path for comic book movies. I hope that we're seeing more things that are sort of kind of similar to this, of just that go their own way, sort of toot their own horn. And so then I'd like to move into recommendations then, and I'll go first this time. So I absolutely recommend this movie. I recommend it to anybody who's a comic book fan, anybody who has enjoyed the works of James Gunn, whether it's in his comic book movies or anything else he's done. I just think it's extremely fresh and very exciting. So.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I would recommend it to anyone that's, again, looking for a laugh, action, a heartfelt movie in all kinds of places. It is a little bit gory, I guess. So maybe if you're not into that kind of thing, then maybe stay away from it. But I feel like the majority of people that are into superhero movies would definitely enjoy this one.
I do think it's the most approachable, like hard R movie I might have ever watched, just because it a lot of hard R, like especially movies like this, feel like kind of like, I don't know, gore for the sake of gore, like curse words for the sake of curse words. But this does actually like have a good story and it feels really good. But I mean, I'd recommend it to anybody unless you are really squeamish at the sight of like blood and like viscera and stuff like that, because there's a lot of it in this one. But I'd recommend it to anybody really.
Been a great first episode. So thank you guys so much for coming here. I expect more in the future then of this sort of stuff. I don't know when exactly, and also in the meantime, check out Pirate TV's other shows on similar subjects such as TV Talk. And thank you for watching, and